I'm Kevin Davis. This is the Catholic Family Podcast, and I'm overjoyed. I'm very honored to be joined by Bishop Charles McGuire, who unfortunately can't see me. I hope everyone can see us. It is one of those things with tech, as His Excellency and I were talking about before. It's always something, but we can't complain too much. We are still able to do a podcast from across an ocean, which is pretty neat. His Excellency just himself came from across an ocean, which we might get to. Bishop he's a busy man for sure. So I definitely appreciate him being able to come on and do a podcast despite being so busy. But I saw a few weeks ago now that the bishop was traveling through Mexico, and he had a certain ceremony that I had never seen before, and it intrigued me enough that I was like, sent him an email, and Your Excellency, you want to come on and describe your trip for us, and he's good enough to do so today. So Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining the show, and I guess I don't know if you want to just kind of give an update or tell us what you were doing in Mexico, who you were visiting, and the ceremony you performed.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I was visiting with actually a number of priests. Um, Most of them were from the Company of Jesus and Mary. Some actually very good and zealous priests who they form their spirituality and their apostolate um, on the Jesuit spirit. So they have their own monastery in Argentina, and then they of course go out on missions just like the Jesuits would. So they're not always locked in the monastery, but you know they spread themselves thinly. Actually, they're all over the place. There are priests in France from that group,
Hmm.
as well as Argentina, Mexico, here in America as well. They're up in the Boston area and Monroe, Connecticut. Um, the superior of that order is actually Father Alfredo Contreras. He's
For
so
the
I
name.
went to see him in Mexico, and then the priests that are with him. There's a Father Odris in Guadalajara. There is Father Adan Rodriguez. He's stationed in Connecticut, but met us in Mexico. And Father Sebastian, who's a Frenchman, speaks perfect Spanish. I've never
Hmm.
seen a Frenchman that speaks Spanish, but there you have it. And then I met also the priest whom I ordained about a year and a half ago in Argentina, Father Benegas,
Okay.
Father Nicolas Benegas. And so we went to two chapels down there, one in Colima, Mexico, another, and actually three chapels in Guadalajara to do confirmations. And I
Well,
think
so
we had
in different days, you just kind of did one, and then the next day another confirmation. Or how did that work?
we spent about a week in Mexico. Father Simpson and I
Okay.
did, and then it was I think Saturday was confirmations in one place, and then we went to Guadalajara for Sunday confirmations.
Okay.
And
And I
yeah,
guess before we continue, I can see what line are these priests from? I think I'm sure people are kind of wondering, but where are they? Where are their orders from? I suppose.
well, Bishop Morello he died around the same time that Bishop Dolan died, so
Hmm.
they're from him, and some of them I think were ordained by Bishop Martinez,
Hmm.
and then others by Bishop Morello. Um, and
And
that's
he
actually
was a
how
Took bishop. Is that right, Jackson?
I believe so. Don't quote
I
me
think
on that
so.
though.
Yeah.
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 But that's how we met the company of Jesus and Mary. Is we both lost our bishops at the same time. We're both sort of in the same position at the same time, and then Father Ercole put us in contact with them. Great group of
Okay.
priests.
Interesting. And how many parishioners approximately would you say in these? Are they big parishes, small parishes?
In Mexico, the one in Guadalajara is quite big. I couldn't begin to give you a number. It is,
Hmm.
I don't think, quite as many as St. Gertrude's. We've got somewhere between 350 and 400. Um, but it's a fairly large one. The one in Colima is a mission chapel. They have masses only on the weekends, so they have maybe 100 to 150. Still pretty decent numbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it? Are they in a big church? I know my dad put together a video with one of the sermons from Bishop Dolan. It's a beautiful video that just kind of splices together many of the churches from around the world of traditional Catholics. And boy, in Mexico, I was just shocked at how many of these big, really beautiful, just truly, I mean, old and at least old looking churches that are just absolutely gorgeous. And I don't know
Yeah.
where they are, honestly, but I know they're in Mexico. I don't know if that was something that you got to experience or.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they were, I would say they're big according to traditional Catholic standards,
Hmm.
but nothing like the old churches, the
Sure.
old cathedrals and the parish churches you'll see in France all over the place that
Hmm.
the Novus Ordo has now. So, um,
Someday we'll get them back someday, right, Jackson?
oh, I hope so.
Right. It is one of those amazing things. You're so right that you go. We used to live near a little town, and like a really little town, and really maybe a few thousand people, and it had three massive churches, like huge. These huge churches. They weren't cathedrals, but they were just gigantic, and they were they're just down the street from one another in this little tiny town. And it was just, I guess it was just because they had different orders that came through, and the people built churches for them. I think one was Jesuit, one was Franciscan, et cetera, and it's just incredible, just like the culture that they had for building, which that's a whole other topic, everyone. We that topic of building, that's definitely, and it's another, well, maybe we'll get that to the end. I heard that you may be building at St. Gertrude's, but I guess continuing on, Your Excellency. So you were down there for a week, and how many places exactly did you visit?
um, I would say I think there were about one, two, three, four different chapels, three in
Okay.
Guadalajara, one in Colima.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
three, and so but they're, so are they the three in Guadalajara? Are they're connected with the same priest? Does the one priest say mass at all three, or they're not connected with one?
So there are three priests stationed there. One
Hmm.
actually lives in the one of the monastery's houses, and he travels back and forth to Colima. Father Odris looks over the main church in Guadalajara, which I believe is Saint Joseph's. Don't quote me. It might, I forget the name of it. In any case, Father Odris watches over the main church. Father Benegas has a smaller chapel in the area, but they're all
Hmm.
connected.
Okay, interesting. And so, for which church were you blessing the altar stones, or was that for multiple?
That was in Colima, actually, the mission
Okay.
chapel. Yeah. And Colima is a really interesting town in and of itself because it's so many of the Cristeros were from there.
Oh, okay.
And in
Interesting.
fact, Father Rodriguez's uncle was one of the Cristeros. He fought for
Huh.
in the Cristeros War. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay. But that must be such a different atmosphere or history than we have in the U.S. Right? Just having gone through that, and only a few generations ago. That must be. I guess that's a good question. And can you still feel that? I mean, obviously, I know the Mexicans have a very different piety or different expression of the faith, I suppose. Is that something that you also see with the Cristeros?
Yeah, you can see in them. There, I'd say there's a little bit of a fighting spirit in the good sense. In the good
Hmm.
sense, um, you can see that a little bit, and yeah, it's just for the reason you just said that this all happens so very recently. It's some of them, some living people, they can remember their own people fighting for the
Wow.
Cristeros just to keep the mass, um, and whatnot. So yeah, you definitely see that. In fact, recently the cathedral in Colima, we visited that both times that I've been in that city. And the first time I went, it was hilarious. They the Novus Ordo there just lost their bishop. I don't know if he died or what. So when I showed up, and we were walking around just touring the place. Everybody thought that I was the new bishop coming to me for blessings and this and that. But in any case, right outside that church, there is a wall that the government just recently covered up. It was riddled with bullet holes from where they would take
Wow.
the priests and the Cristeros out along the church wall and shoot them, execute them.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they just recently covered that up.
Wonder why.
Yeah, I
That's
wonder why
incredible.
indeed.
Wow.
In any
Huh.
case.
Interesting. And so how is that? I mean, with that, I think we talked about that. Maybe our first interview we did of how you appreciated that spirit in Mexico, kind of that different,
Yeah.
just the difference, I suppose. Did you feel that this time down as well?
Yeah, very much. The Mexicans have big hearts, and
Hmm.
you know, they make you feel right at home. They're yeah, they have it's an innocent piety. It's a very innocent, down to earth piety. And as I said, they really make you feel right at home. They've got big hearts. So
Do you like the Mexican food?
I love the Mexican food.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Yeah.
me too. I miss that so much in Germany. They don't know how, they never know how to make Mexican food. And I know I've never been to Mexico, so I'm sure I've never actually had Mexican food. But Colorado's close enough. You get some really good stuff, in Colorado. And I miss that so much. I really miss Mexican food. So that must be what a pleasure to actually be there. I'm jealous.
Yeah, no, it's great all the way around. I mean, Mexico, even from the point of view of the rugged countryside, from a natural point of view, I would take Mexico over Europe any day. From
Interesting. Okay.
from a natural point of view, the
Hmm.
rugged country, all of that. I see why
Interesting.
Bishop
So
Dolan loved it.
yeah, so I mean, see, I have never been, so I can't really judge. But I guess I picture it kind of like southern Colorado. So you have some mountains, but it's kind of dark or not darker. It's dusty and arid and kind of dry. Is that kind of the
Yeah,
case or no?
yeah, it depends what part of Mexico. One of the places I
Hmm.
go to is very tropical. It looks like the jungles in Colombia, if you've seen pictures of that.
Okay. Yeah.
But most of Mexico is just like you see in the old Western John Wayne
Hmm.
movies, just
Okay.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Cool. That's pretty nice. All right. Then I guess I can imagine that, just waiting for the Indians to poke around the corner. Well, let me see.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can share a couple pictures from Facebook. This was your Facebook. No, that's the blessing. Let's see. I don't know if can you see that, Your Excellency, on the screen?
Yes. In fact,
Okay,
you
you can see it.
reappeared.
Oh, I did. Oh, good. Okay. Well, that makes it even better. Sometimes you just have to click a few buttons and some things work out. And so here's an image of you, looks like during the mass, or is this during the blessing ceremony maybe?
That
So it looks like you have a
that was a
different
Sunday high mass.
missal. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a high mass. Okay, got it. And so where was
That
this?
that's in Colima. That's a little
That's
chapel
Colima.
they built themselves.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
Very handsome chapel, you know.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful candlesticks. Wow.
Yeah.
Or candles. Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah. So that's on my right, facing the altar. On my right is Father Contreras. On my left is Father Simpson from St. Gertrude's.
okay. Mm-hmm. Got
So
it. So let's see what do we have next. So
yeah,
are these all the confirmandi then
that was
and
that was
sponsors?
just the confirmandi in Guadalajara.
Ah, wow.
So
Okay.
I think there were about 65 of them. Um, yeah, yeah, it's really funny.
Wow.
The I, some of the ladies like to wear makeup, and when you're confirming them, it gets all over your thumb, and then you put it right back into the holy oil. So, ladies, I gotta say, when you're being confirmed, don't wear so much makeup. But
These are good tips, Jackson.
yeah,
Anyone watching, good to know. All right, that's these are tips you'd
but
only
yeah,
get from a bishop.
those. So, in you you can't really see them here. They're probably in the background. Some of the mothers holding babies.
Mm-hmm.
And in
Also being
Mexico,
confirmed. Huh?
in in Mexico they confirm babies.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it shows you how, again, these cultures are always different. I always find that funny when people, we get to Lent, season, and people are like, okay, these are the fasting rules. It's like, rules are
Yeah.
very different regionally. You can't just say what the rules are. They're always very, very different. That's interesting. It's always, I love it too whenever I see the videos of the priests or the bishop in Nigeria, and just how different they dress and how colorful they dress. I just love that so much. Just such a different culture,
Yeah.
but still the Catholic faith. It's so neat.
Yeah.
So there's another
Yeah.
image of you.
Yeah. There I'm confirming a little girl. I think she must have been she looked like she was about two or
Interesting.
maybe three.
Wow.
So,
And so obviously they do that before confession and communion.
hmm I think
Interesting.
I think actually um, it was done in Mexico at the same time as baptism, if I'm not
Wow. Okay.
mistaken. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
So,
I definitely see sense in that. Yeah, that extra grace from the Holy Ghost from the beginning. That makes sense.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay. Let's
yeah.
see. So those were and there were the next ones were of I believe they were the ceremony. And maybe you could talk a bit about that, Your Excellency, because that was something that I don't think I've ever seen pictures of that. I watched some of the ceremony of the church in Florida for the Sisters of St. Thomas, and that was very interesting. That was, I think that whole ceremony was what, 5 hours long or something like that. Was that the same here? Was it a very extensive ceremony?
Yeah, it was. It was. I think the consecration of a consecration of an altar is in many ways very similar to an altar stone. Theirs was a
Hmm.
little bit different. They went all around the church and everything. So this was just an altar stone. So um, it took about an hour and 45 minutes to do without all of the singing and like the
Hmm.
high mass kind of ceremonies. Um,
Also, you
so
would have the choir sometimes singing the prayers in between or whatnot.
oh yeah, yeah. This was
You
done as
could,
sort of a
okay,
low
yeah,
ceremony.
okay.
Otherwise,
Hmm.
yeah, otherwise you have to sing the preface. There's parts that the choir
Hmm.
sings and all sorts of things. So we just didn't, it being a mission church, we didn't have the people for that. But still, I think one of the most edifying ceremonies I've ever done, for to be sure. It's full of symbolism and just unbelievable.
And
So,
so, did you have to like study for that, or are you kind of reading as you go along, or both?
oh no, Bishop Dolan taught us well, and sometimes we learned the hard way to take
Hmm.
the ceremonies very seriously. That this
Sure.
is the worship of God. It's first commandment stuff.
Right.
So
Sure.
yeah, it took a lot of study beforehand, and it was still you had to read some of the rubrics between the your actions during the ceremony. So it was complicated. Um, we Yeah, if you look the top right picture,
Hmm.
um, it looks like I'm just blessing. So you have to anoint those five crosses, the four one at each corner and the one in the center. Those are crosses that are made there, and you have
Hmm.
to anoint. I think it was 4 or 5 different times with chrism sometimes and with the oil of catechumens at others, and those symbolize the five wounds of our blessed Lord.
Hmm.
Um, so you anoint him with a certain formula, and then you sign it, and that in itself took a long time just to do all the anointings. Um, in Where is it? The bottom left corner. That is where the relics of the martyrs are kept.
Hmm.
So that's called the sepulcher. And the rite says that for the consecration of an altar stone, you have to have the relics of two martyrs, and 3 grains of incense go in there. And then it's interesting because the you have to be sort of what do you call those people? The trade, where they a mason. You have to be
Ah,
you have to do
sure.
mason work. There's a blessing in there for cement
Huh.
as part of the ceremony, and then you have to mix this Gregorian water, which is it's got regular water, which is blessed and exorcised, salt, which has been exorcised and blessed, wine that has been blessed. You mix all that together, then you pour it into some, like, we used Quickcrete, and then you bless
Hmm.
that, and you stir it all
Okay.
together, and you have to, as soon as you put the relics in there, then the bishop takes a putty knife or some instrument like that and puts all of that, the concrete around there, and seals up the tomb. It's
Oh,
really neat.
interesting.
Yeah, really
Wow.
neat.
And is there, I've always wondered that, is there a way, do you like inscribe which relics there are? I remember asking when I was a young boy, I remember asking our priest if who the relics were of. And I don't remember if he knew or maybe he didn't say. I don't really remember. I was pretty little, but I remember really being curious, like, oh, what saints relics are in there? And is that something that's you have that
Yeah,
information somewhere or?
yeah. It's not the case for all of them, but on some
Hmm.
of the altar stones, the bishop who consecrated them uh, put he put it on a piece of paper on the back.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
but if we used Saint Placidus,
Wow.
um, the one who is associated with Saint Benedict, and then we use Saint Perpetua from March 6th is her feast day.
Hmm.
So those are the two relics that we used for these altar stones.
Wow. Okay.
And so, yeah, but the last picture, bottom right, that was perhaps, aside from the part with the relics, that was the most impressive part. The You have to take little pieces of those candle wicks and cut them down to size, and form them in a cross, put them on
Hmm.
each of the crosses on the altar stone, along with 5 grains of incense, and then light them all. And there's a prayer that the bishop says at that time that's asking the Holy Ghost to come down upon these altar stones and bless and sanctify them. And fire, of course, always being associated with the Holy Ghost. So we had to light those all, and once we said the prayers to the Holy Ghost, then you have to wait until all of them have burned out completely
Hmm.
before continuing the ceremony. But it was really a
Interesting.
beautiful part.
Even the picture is really fascinating. It really is. It looks like somebody just completely new. It really is. I'm sure for you too that during it kind of comes back to you every Holy Week, right? How different those ceremonies are, kind of how ancient they are, and just kind of you get kind of used to. I mean, you shouldn't, but you get kind of used to mass and you kind of know the
Yeah.
routine. But you get to Holy Week, it's like it's all kind of different again, and this ancient, this ancient rites that are so fascinating. This looks similar to that.
Yeah. No, very, very much so. Yeah, I know what you mean. All the blessing of the fire on Easter,
Yeah.
on rather Holy Saturday. Yeah. But they're yeah, and it you can see it looks very glossy, the altar stones. So after, right before you light those fires, you basically douse them in both chrism and the oil of catechumens,
Hmm.
and spread it around. It's really a fascinating ceremony, really.
It sounds kind of messy. It's
Well,
interesting.
the priests afterward had a fun time purifying those altar stones, because
I bet.
actually part of the rite is that as soon as an altar stone is consecrated, then right away you have to say mass on it.
Ah, okay.
And so it's the mass for the dedication of a church with a special collect and secret and post communion just for that occasion.
Wow.
So yeah.
Interesting. So did you bless these then like on an early morning, and then afterwards the priest had mass or said mass on them,
Yep.
or?
Yeah, I think we started around 10 or 10:30, and then
Okay.
they offered mass just before, around noon or so. Yeah,
Interesting.
Father Benegas did the mass. So
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, so you don't have to do one on every stone. You can do just one mass on
Correct.
them, I
Yeah.
suppose. Okay, I got it. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really really fascinating. And is that something then? Would you want to do that someday in Cincinnati as well, to do that whole ceremony with a full choir and whatnot?
Absolutely. Yeah, even our choir director was saying that he would be interested in singing for it.
Wow.
So as soon as we get the opportunity, guess what St. Gertrude's is doing?
Perfect. Okay, choir members, I hope you're listening. That's great. But it really is, and it's a hard. I mean, as a choir member myself, it's difficult. But boy, it really is such a those types of events of liturgy are just so, oh, they're so nice that you have so much of that beautiful chant that you're singing, and you're part of that ceremony. That's really magical. It's like Holy Week. That is just a there's nothing like it. You hurt by the end of the day, but it is certainly worth it. Well, I'd be curious to see that. That would be beautiful. I may just have to visit Cincinnati whenever you do that, Your Excellency. So
Okay.
and I guess let's see if I can get back with you here. Uh, Sorry, everyone. I'm not really used to using Skype. For some reason, with St. Gertrude the Great, we have to use Skype rather than the other platform. I don't really know why, but we're glad something works again with the technology. But Your Excellency, yeah, I mean, is there any other point about Mexico that you'd like to mention or talk about that you didn't discuss? I mean, is there anything I don't know, anything that strikes you?
I actually, one of the things that really struck me, especially this time, was seeing a mix. It's funny, there's still, the culture is still so pagan.
Hmm.
I noticed that especially in Guadalajara, where right at the center of the city, they have one of those, it's a huge roundabout. And in the center is a very large statue to Minerva. And
Oh,
on yeah, and on the back of it, it says the glory of Guadalajara.
interesting.
Just down the street there was the hotel called Hotel Diana, after the pagan goddess. And in Colima, at another, the hotel where we stayed, actually, there were pictures of this. It was a statue of a dog. They were all over the place, everywhere,
Hmm.
every wall, every corner. And we were wondering what it was, but it was an old, uh, it was a pagan god or something. I don't know what exactly it was, but it had connections with paganism. It's all over Mexico. And that's why you see that, you hear these people. Father Ciordia used to do exorcisms all the time on possessed people, and you can see why. It's it's
Wow.
it's really, their culture is very much out in the open, that it's paganism. Whereas here in the United States, it's slowly getting that way, but it was
Or
never.
atheism. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. I guess I wouldn't have considered that. I mean, I guess as you say, we have our own problems, but yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, in a way, pagan, but not openly pagan like that. You're not worshiping old gods or anything like that. Not too much in the U.S. In Europe, certainly not. I don't think not like that, at least. Interesting. Boy, that's not something I would have expected.
Yeah.
Because everywhere has its own problems. I
Yeah.
guess that is that's just how it is. Interesting. And then so I guess to wrap up your Excellency, then you went to France. I mean, you don't have to talk too much about that, but I mean, that's also an interesting way to go from Mexico back to the U.S. and then to France. I mean, that's a very different jumping around of cultures, I suppose. I mean, how was that trip?
Yeah, it was different, definitely a different feel to it. And the people are so different and have their own problems. They're always fighting about the thesis, and
Hmm.
then, you know, going to back and forth from the SSPX to the Sedevacantis chapels, and kind of like fight with your friends, compromise with your enemies sort of thing. And but I visited Father Eckhard, which a priest that rather Bishop Dolan ordained in 2012 or so, and visited some of his missions to do confirmations, only a handful. It's more of a pastoral visit to the priest.
Hmm.
And then did some conferences with some of the people. But, you know, as you said, each culture is different. Over there,
Absolutely.
not only do you not see openly the pagan things, but to find a Protestant church in France is almost impossible. I think I've seen
Hmm.
one that was in Lisieux, but
Interesting.
I've never seen another Protestant church over
Huh. That is interesting. Well, I can tell you, Germany has plenty. It's
there.
interesting with France. Huh. Yeah, I guess I wonder why. Yeah, I guess they are still a fairly Catholic country, though. I think they're another one that though they haven't. They're the modern church has lost so many people. I think France is one of the worst hit. I think people just don't. No one goes to church anymore, and I think that's. I mean, that's all throughout the world, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think I remember seeing at some point that France was maybe the worst from what it used to be. So if you went from 1960, where it was 90% Catholics who attended mass. Now it's something like, I don't know, 10% or something actually ever attend. You know, they're nominally Catholic, and
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once you have, I think of Italy and France both, once you've been blessed as much as those two countries, I mean,
Mm.
you think of just France itself, how many times Our Lady appeared there?
Yeah.
Lourdes, La Salette, Our Lady of Hope in Pontmain, however you say that. Um, they were so favored. And then it's always the ones that are, when you receive so many graces and you fall hard. And so Italy and France, I think it's probably the worst if I had to pick two countries, um, for that reason. But still, it's over there. One thing to be hopeful for is there's a movement where a lot of young men
Yeah.
are converting, and they're usually you go from Novus Ordo to maybe SSPX to Sedevacante. There's a gradual process. It's young men, and they're jumping straight from atheism
Yeah.
to traditional Catholicism. And I think it's got something to do with there's the state of politics over there is so bad
Exactly. Exactly.
that
Yeah, I've talked to some of these young men. It's really interesting. Exactly right. It is. It's like a movement. I know, and I think I've heard at least that some of these, like Paris, is like a kind of a hot spot where these young men just that they're like moving together. They're meeting each other in Paris, and they're making this really this kind of a big movement towards traditionalism. And I think, as you said, Your Excellency, it's so interesting that I think we see that throughout the world that people are going kind of both ways. Either they're going totally insane or they're going, kind of more towards tradition. But I think you're right. It's interesting in France that they're just skipping the steps, which I get. It's one of those kind of a mysteries. Like, I couldn't explain why, but it's fascinating. It really is, and it's a neat thing to see that they're reasoning themselves into, okay, there must be a God, and okay, there must be the Catholic Church, must be the Church of God, and then what is in Rome right now isn't the Catholic Church. That's a fascinating thing to come to by yourself so quickly.
yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, to see the grace of God at work in those souls, boy, oh boy, it's really
Beautiful.
great.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last question for you: is there anything new going on at St. Gertrude's? I saw in a newsletter. I think it was a recent one that you're looking to build on to the church. Is that true?
Well, not to the church itself. It's
Okay.
really a project for our oblates. They still need a place to live. So they're still living with their families and driving back and forth to church, and it's really hard for them to have that religious spirit as you should. So we're actually looking to build an addition onto the rectory so all the priests can
Hmm.
finally live in the same house. There's a second house on the property that was originally meant for sisters that Bishop Dolan and Father Chicata built. So, and right now, Father Leiteranda and the two younger priests live in that house because the
Hmm.
rectory just simply wasn't big enough. Um, so we're looking to put all the priests together the in the rectory, and then the sisters can take over the second house down the hill. And I think that's really going to help. It'll give opportunity for us to be able to receive more oblates. There, I know there are some that perhaps are interested, but they live in other states, and we can't take them in right now.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's not for the church itself, but it's certainly for a good cause. The oblates are very necessary for for the church. Plus, so many young ladies, they really do have a calling for this, a vocation from God, and I hope that we can receive more of them. You know.
I just spoke with Father Zepeda a few weeks ago. He's trying to get a convent in Colorado, and he said the same. He's like, he feels like it's one of those things that we have to feel some obligation as Catholics to somehow provide that situation for someone who actually has that calling. And it's something that we don't really think about it that way, because we just like, oh well, we don't have it, so we don't have it. It's like, yeah, but then that means these people are missing their vocation, their God-given vocation. They
Yeah.
can't achieve that because there's nowhere to go. And I think that's a really amazing point. And then and I can speak for myself, how influenced I've been by sisters, by nuns in my life, that it's huge. It's hugely important. And you have what now? You actually say three in
Three of them.
Cincinnati. Hmm.
Three. Yeah. Yeah. And they do very good work. Both right now, they work, some of them in the sacristy, which around here that's a full-time job. And then some of them also teach in our school. So they run girls' camp. They do actually they a lot of the people parishioners like to, as people like to talk to any sister. They go to them with
Hmm.
their problems sometimes, and so
Hmm.
they're it's really uh, it truly is a vocation, and it really they do a good job. You know,
And
so
how could people support that, Your Excellency? Is that something that is it funds? Is it can people go and help you build an addition, or how can people help this happen?
right now it's a question of funds. So to donate to if there's anyone that would like to donate, it's just make the check to St. Gertrude the Great Church with a note that says for the oblates. And
Hmm.
but yeah, we're gonna have to not only build the house, but then support them, which then we're
Sure.
talking. There's five priests and three sisters. That's 8 mouths to feed,
Yeah.
and three buildings to take care of. So it's a lot, and you'd be surprised. Maybe you wouldn't with the inflation and everything. Most people
Yeah.
know about it, but you'd be surprised how fast the money goes.
Absolutely. No, that's so true. And I know that you do a lot to support the priests and the missions in Africa as well, and Nigeria, and I know it again. I think we talk about this a lot. We always have something to give money to, but I think, of course, first of all, find a church. If anyone, because I think I've seen someone ask that in actually a traditional Catholic Facebook group, like what's a good charity to donate to? It's like, well, here's this church and this church and this church. You know, that they're gonna be the ones who are gonna, you know, spend it the best and give it to, you know, to go and feed, you know, souls. I mean, that's the whole point, right? And I think that's something that it is the most important thing in our lives, of course, right? Is to go to heaven. And okay, who is here? That's their job, right? That is your job, to help us go to heaven, and we need to support that as well. So anyone who can, as His Excellency said, send a check, or I think you can go to sgg.org and donate as well. I think that's how it used to be. Yeah. So. But everyone, please do that, and hopefully we'll have His Excellency on again. I want to, one of these days, Your Excellency, have you and a few of the priests on for a live show to maybe answer some people's questions and then kind of, you know, maybe have a nice chat and raise some money for the oblates. That'd be pretty nice. So we'd have to figure out the internet problem, but other than that, that would be beautiful. I hope we can figure that out sometime. And as always, Your Excellency, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on and for explaining your trip to Mexico and that ceremony, which really is, it looks just beautiful. I hope that sometime in the near future you'll be able to do it at St. Gertrude's, and maybe you know, we'll be able to watch at least from afar.
There we go. Well, it's good talking to you too, Kevin, and God bless you.
Great, thank you, Excellency. God bless everyone. If you would, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and all that stuff. And again, please go over to sgg.org if you are able to contribute and support His Excellency the priests and the oblates, and giving them somewhere to live. So everyone, thank you very much. God bless. Till next time.